So this is my Yeti Gobox. This box has been with me through so many adventures, from musky fishing, bass fishing, saltwater fishing, all kinds of stuff. But today I wanted to show you kind of how I set this box up and what I keep in this box for musky fishing. Now, musky fishing here in the Southeast is quickly winding down for the season. The price on these Yeti Goboxes is pretty high, but if you compare it to something like a Fish Pond or a Simms or an Orvis boat bag, the price gets a little bit easier to swallow. You know, you're still looking at around $300 for those boat bags, and this is gonna last you significantly longer. I almost always sit on top of this box if I'm not running the boat standing up. It is nice to have a little bit elevated seating platform when you're running the boat so you can see over your other anglers' heads. Helps a little bit with maneuverability as well as seeing down into the water as well. So this thing serves multiple purposes in my boat, something that a boat bag really can't do. I will say, if you want a cheaper alternative, I've made a video in the past on a cheaper alternative for you, so I'll try to link that in the video description. One thing about small skiffs like the Towie is that space is at a premium, so having a box that stores everything really easily for me, but I can still stand on or sit on in the boat, makes it really nice. So opening the box up here, on top you have this mesh organizer, so it's got 3 pockets. We'll go through each of those, and then we'll go through the contents of the box here as well. So that's kind of an overview of the box. Let's hop into the overhead view. I'll go step by step through everything that I keep, how I use it, and why. All right, so what I've actually done here is to remove this internal lid organizer from the Gobox, just so that you can get a little better look at it. We can go through all the pockets here. So first up is this top large zipper compartment. This is mostly sun protection gear and clothing. I find that if you stick a lot of large items in this pocket, it can cause issues with shutting the box and things like that. So in here, what I've got a Solarflex neck gaiter for sun protection, some Solarflex guide gloves, again for sun protection, as well as some abrasion resistance if I'm rowing, poling, whatever. I've got a normal buff for a little bit more warmth and wind protection. And then I also keep some Nitride gloves in here. These are absolutely fantastic for winter fishing. They keep your hands dry, which of course keeps them warmer. And while I won't say they keep your hands warm, they will definitely be less cold. That's pretty much it for that top compartment. Like I said, if you put much in there and it starts to bulge, it can make shutting the box more difficult. So this is this left smaller pocket now. These are my smaller tools. So in here, I've got a fly line cleaning wipe, pretty self-explanatory, although I very seldom use them. Sometimes you do need one. I've got a nail knot tool here as well. This is, of course, just for tying nail knots. It's not something you need very often. In here, I keep a cloth measuring tape. Again, just for getting a length measurement on a fish. In here, I also have some gel super glue. This is super useful for a lot of stuff, for repairing flies, adding weight, fixing soft plastics. I will say definitely make sure you get the super glue gel. It doesn't make near as much of a mess as the standard super glue does, and it tends to hold stuff better because it's that gel. It kind of gets into nooks and crannies instead of just running off. In here, I've got some split ring pliers. These are mostly for conventional fishing, but I do fish some flies specifically for musky that have split ring connections or split ring connections to hooks and stuff. I keep a Bic Lighter in pretty much every bag that I own. Safety or, melting ends on flies, whatever, it comes in handy. Also in this pocket is a hook file for filing hooks. In all seriousness, as much effort as we put into fishing, especially musky, I don't want to lose one due to a rolled hook point or a dull hook. Next thing's some tungsten beads. These are 5.5 millimeters. If you find your flies aren't getting deep enough, it's super simple just to take one of these and slide it onto your tippet in front of your fly, just like you would on a Texas rig. Add 2 for a little bit of rattle as well, so they come in super handy. I keep a stream thermometer. I'm trying to do a better job of cataloging fish catches, correlating that with weather, water temps, things like that. I don't use it a ton, but it's nice to have just in case. I keep some chapstick, of course, especially in the winter, running the boat, all that kind of stuff. Chapstick is a must-have, so gotta have that in here. I keep a black Sharpie. This comes in handy for all kinds of stuff, adding details to flies, eye spots, changing fly colors, whatever. Sometimes I will add some other color Sharpies to this bag as well, but I always have at least black. Last thing in here is just a few random bass leaders. I think we've got some SA leaders as well as some Cortland leaders. I just always keep some bass leaders in here. I find myself needing leader material every once in a while. So over here on this right side is where I keep my more delicate items and stuff that I don't want scratched up by all the tools I keep on the left side. First thing is some spare contacts. This is a must for me, just in case my contacts fall out or dry out or whatever while I'm fishing. I've got a stripping guard. This is not something I wear all the time, but sometimes when you strip set hard into a log a couple times, and you'll be really glad you have some protection for your fingers. I've got a Band-Aid for the same reason as well. I keep a copy of my boat registration in here, as well as a business card with my name, address, phone number, return to information, just in case I do leave the box somewhere. Hopefully someone's nice enough to return it to me. I keep a lens cleaning cloth in here because dirty glasses suck. I also keep some moist towelettes for lens cleaning in here too, just for glasses that are too dirty for the dry cloth. And last thing on this side is a small Rite in the Rain notebook. This is mostly for taking notes, but it's also helpful for leaving notes for people, recording information, really whatever while I'm out on the water. So this is kind of the top-down view of the box when you're using it. This is really set up pretty much how I use it for the most part. Again, this tray is removable, so that's kind of how everything down there below looks. We'll go through this piece by piece, but first let's take this tray out and we'll go through that. So this is your storage tray. This is your front and center, main stage. This is your quickest access stuff. This is where I tend to put the stuff that I tend to be reaching for most often. Through the course of a day, a lot of times stuff will kind of make its way in here as well. So I always leave some open space for phone, keys, wallet, things like that, that I don't necessarily keep in the box all the time, but once I get in the boat, they usually find their way in here. Otherwise, stuff I'm reaching for most often when it comes to musky fishing is snacks. I've got all your essentials. I've got protein bars, Nature Valley, I've got chewy dips, Cliff bars. I also keep some electrolyte powder in here as well. Otherwise in this tray, I have a second pair of sunglasses in a case. I always have at least 2 pairs of glasses. Typically it's sunrise silver mirrors and then green mirrors. I'm always wearing at least 1 pair, so the other pair stays in the case. If I switch them out, then the other pair goes in here. Sometimes I'll also take a pair of clear glasses if I'm thinking I'm going to be running late in the evening, especially if bugs are out. It can be nice to have a pair of clear glasses just to protect your eyes as well. On this side over here, I've got some line cutters. This is a pair of old fly tying scissors that have kind of worn out. These go well through braid, wire, and monofilament line. Just don't use new scissors for that because you will ruin them very quickly. I keep some wire. So for most of my musky fishing where the water is not super clear, I use tieable stainless wire. This is from Cortland. I've got some 35 as well as some packs of 20 pound here, but the 35 is what I use 95% of the time. If the water is clear, I like the Scientific Angler's nickel titanium wire. I just keep some bass leader material or bass tippet material. I think this is some 20, some 16, and maybe some 8 pound. This isn't something that gets used much for musky fishing, but sometimes if you're really striking out, it's nice to be able to put on a smallmouth fly and, you know, catch a fish or two. This right side over here is my co-angler storage. I say that somewhat jokingly, but that really is what I use this right side for mostly, at least for musky fishing. Fly storage is elsewhere in the boat. Musky flies and lures are just too big to keep in this box. So this is just an open compartment for a buddy's snacks, waters, clothes, camera, whatever. In the towee, space is really at a premium, so if we can avoid taking an extra backpack or boat bag, it really helps the livability of the boat for 3 people. It also helps just to know your fishing buddies well so that you can really cut down on duplicate gear. There's no reason we need 3 separate measuring tapes or 3 sets of pliers or tippet or whatever. On this side, I do keep my water bottle typically. Usually that'll kind of find its way somewhere else in the boat as I'm fishing. And then just a normal set of pliers. These are an older set of Orvis pliers. Last but not least, here is the deep storage. So this is what's under the removable tray. Typically, if this stuff gets used, then it makes its way elsewhere in the boat. But it kind of stays here until we need it for some reason. So first thing, I've got a headlamp in here. I keep a windstopper beanie in here as well. I've got some warm, waterproof, windproof gloves. These come in super handy in the winter. If it's wicked cold and I'm running the boat or someone is rowing, then those are a lifesaver. Down here, I also keep my tippet material. These are SA wrist spools in 30, 40, and 60 pound fluoro. Unlike trout or bass fishing, you really don't need a lot of leader material. Mostly what you're changing out is your wire as you change flies. So leader material is a must-have, but it doesn't need to be front and center. I keep some hook cutters here. These are for releasing deep hooked fish on musky. These are also for you. Getting hooked sucks, but not being able to get unhooked is even worse, particularly if you've got a musky attached to one of the other hooks. They aren't something you need often, but they are a must-have as far as I'm concerned. I also keep very long pliers, kind of for the same reasons as the cutters. These are to make sure that both you and the muskie survive unscathed if you do land one. Muskie are amazing fish and they have fairly low population densities, so making sure not to harm the fish is very, very important, and that goes hand in hand with having a good net elsewhere in the boat. I also keep 2 sets of jaw spreaders in here too. Again, for safety of me and the muskie. This is just to keep their mouths open so we can get our hooks out and get them in the water quicker. Last thing down here is my emergency gear. This is in a small Patagonia black hole organizer, so we'll go through that as well. So in this little Patagonia bag is my emergency gear. Right on top, I've got a cat emergency tourniquet. You know, heaven forbid someone gets thrown out of the boat, gets hit by the motor. Very important to have some sort of way to stop the bleeding. I keep a flashlight. I keep some sunscreen in here. That's pretty self-explanatory. I keep some bug repellent wipes in here as well. You know, usually musky fishing down here in the south, it's pretty cool. We don't have a lot of issues with bugs, but they are nice to have. I keep a small first aid kit as well. Got some toilet paper, that's a must. I keep a couple extra hanks of parachute cord just in case I need to tie up or anything like that. Pack of water purification tablets. Again, if you were to get stranded somewhere, those would come in handy. And then I keep an emergency whistle here too. Keep a spare spool for my reels too. So all my reels that I use for musky fishing are lamps and liquids and remixes, which take the same spool. So this is an extra spool just in case a line were to get wrapped around something or got lost or got cut up. And that's pretty much it for my boat box. As I've said before, but no gear list exists, you know, inside of a vacuum. Oftentimes I've got other gear placed elsewhere in the boat, particularly if I'm taking the towee, because it does have some additional storage space. If I'm in a raft musky fishing, this box is pretty much everything that I need. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below. I do my best to respond to any questions I have on my videos. That's great. That's what you want.